Hi and welcome to this Key Learning Initiative video. Today's topic is sketching linear functions, and the way we're going to do it is using the Duel Intercept method. Let's get going, but as we do, please remember, if you haven't already, to hit the subscribe button. Please like and share, and remember that any comments are always welcome, so please do type them in the comment section. But let's get going. When we're sketching graphs, there are many different ways to draw graphs. Today we're looking at the Duel Intercept method, or the Y-Intercept method. That's another name that we can use, the Y-Intercept method. Let's see how this works. If we have a Cartesian plane, or a set of axes, whatever you want to call them, and we can plot a point anywhere along our x-axis, and we can plot a point anywhere on our y-axis. When we've got those 2 points, we can join them and draw our graph. But let's look at that a bit more closely. On that line, y equals 0. So anywhere on that line, so that first yellow dot, x is 0 and y is 0. On the second one, x is 3, but y is 0. The next one, it looks like it's just past 7, and so x is 7.2, say, but y is 0. There we go. Negative 3.8 is my x value, but my y value is 0. And there again, negative 7, 8 or 0.8, my y value is 0. And so anywhere along that line, y equals 0. Similarly, on my vertical y-axis, x equals 0. So that purple point, my x value is 0 and my y value is 0. This purple point right at the bottom, x is 0 and y is negative 6, 8. Next point, x is 0, y is negative 2, 8. Next point up at the top, x is 0 and y is 6.8. And that last purple dot, x is 0 and y is 4. And so you see, anywhere on that vertical line or the vertical axis, x equals 0. So how does this help us? Well, if we can plot 2 points, one point on my x-axis, which in this case is yellow, and one point on my y-axis, which in this case is purple. If I've got those 2 points and I join them, I can draw a line. If I have another 2 points that I can plot, I can draw a line. And so instead of having a table method where I have 4 or 5 different points, if I use my Duel Intercept method, for the most part, if I've got 2 points, I can draw my graph. So let's look. For this method, we use a smaller version of the table method. We only use 2 values. Let's have a look. So, where y is 0, if I can work out my x value, and where x is 0, can I work out my y value? If I can work out the 2 points where they cross the axes, I draw my line and I've got my graph. Let's look again. I plot my 2 points, I draw a line. Or I plot my 2 points, I draw a line. Now how do we work that out? Let's have a look at an example. Sketch the following graph. Y equals 2x minus 2. And now the structure, or the way I'm going to be showing you, please take note. Almost do it word for word or letter for letter when you're doing this method. So, for the x-intercept, I let y equal 0. So in an example, you literally write that down. For x-intercept, let y equal 0. Then I take my equation, and instead of y, I put 0, and so I get 0 equals 2x minus 2. And now I solve for x. To get rid of the minus 2 on the right-hand side, I add 2 to both sides, and so 2 plus 0, or 0 plus 2, gives me 2 equals 2x. Now, I don't want 2x, I want x by itself, so I divide both sides by 2. 2 divided by 2 is 1, and so I get 1 equals x. And I can plot my point, where x equals 1 and y equals 0. 1 point done. Now I need to do my second one. For the y-intercept, let x equal 0. So we take my equation, and instead of x, I write a 0, and so I get y equals 2 times 0 minus 2. Well, 2 times 0 is 0, and so y equals minus 2, and I plot my point. Now I've got my 2 points where they cross the axes. I take my ruler, I draw my line. Last thing I do is I label my line. Y equals 2x minus 2. Now if you were using the table method, the simplified table method that is, you would have a table that looks like this. For your yellow dot, we'd have x equal to 1 and y equal to 0. And for your purple dot, you'd have x equals 0 and y equals minus 2. Again, you do that table, you work out your 2 points, put your 2 points on your axes, draw your line. Let's look at another example. And here we have a set of axes, but there are no markings on it. Now when we have a set of axes like that, we just have to estimate things. Please guys, we don't need to take our ruler and measure one exactly and then do the rest. We don't have to do that. All we have to do is almost estimate where all the lines will probably be and use that. Alright, when we finished, we actually raised those little dots and those little lines, those markings, so we really don't need them. They don't have to be 100% accurate. Please remember that. Alright, so sketch the following graph. 2y minus 3x equals 6. And we do our layout exactly the same. So, for x-intercept, let y equal 0. Then in place of y I put a 0. So I have 2 times 0 minus 3x equals 6. Well, 2 times 0 is 0, and so I have minus 3x equals 6. Now I don't want minus 3x, I just want x, and so I divide both sides by minus 3. And that means I get x equal to minus 2. And then on my approximations, I plot my point. Last thing I do is I label it, and so at that yellow dot, x is minus 2. Let's look at our other intercept. So for y-intercept, let x equal 0, and so in place of x I just put a 0, which means I get 2y minus 3 times 0 equals 6. So 3 times 0 is 0, and so I have 2y equals 6. Now I don't want 2y, I just want y, and so I divide both sides by 2, and I get y equals 3, and I can plot that point. Lastly, I label the value of 3. Now I've got my 2 dots. I take my ruler, I draw my line through both dots, and then I label my graph. 2 dots, draw a line through them, label your graph. Now the last thing to remember is that with this graph we don't even need those little calibrations or those little lines. We're just estimating where the -2 and the 3 are situated. If we were off by a little bit, it would not matter, as long as we've labeled them -2 and 3. If we were using a table, it would look like this, where y is 0, x is -2, and where x is 0, y is 3. And we've joined our dots, we've drawn our line, and then we've labeled our graph. Our next example, y equals -2x. Now this, as you'll see, presents a small problem for our dual intercept method, but there's a way around it. So let's work on our x and our y intercepts. Hopefully you're starting to get the feel of it. So for an x intercept, I let y equal 0. So then 0 equals -2x. I divide both sides by -2, and I get 0 equals x. And so my x-intercept is right there at 0, 0. For my y-intercept now, I let x equal 0. And so I get y equals -2 times 0. Well, -2 times 0 is 0, and so y equals 0. And so my second dot, the purple one, is also in the middle. Now if I try and draw a line that goes through both dots, I can draw a line like that. It goes through both the purple and the yellow dot. I can draw a line like that, or I can draw a line like that. They can't all be right. So which one is it? To actually work this out, we have to do an extra step. Alright, we have to do one more thing. Let's look at what we do. When we've got our x and y intercept at 0, 0, what we then need to choose an x value that isn't 0. So you can choose 1, 2, 5, -1. Whichever's easiest. Most of the time it's easiest to let x equal 1. So if x equals 1, then y will equal -2 times 1, and so y will equal -2. And now we plot the point where x is 1 and y is -2, and that should be about over there. Again, it's just an estimate, it's not exactly. We label that point 1, -2. Now we've got our 2 dots. We take our ruler, we draw our line through both the middle, which is sometimes called the origin, and our second point, which we've worked out to 1, -2, and then we label our line or our graph. An important thing to notice, if I look at the equation for my graph, y equals -2x, there's no number that comes after the -2x. There's no +5 or -3. There's no constant. And that's a hint. When we have no constant for a straight line graph, we're going to have to choose another value that's not 0 for x. So if I had y equals 5x, then I'm going to have to let x equal 1 for my second dot. Or if I have y equals -1/2x, I'm going to have to get my second point by letting x equal 1 and working it out. Alright, so that's a bit of a hint. Well, I hope that's been helpful. So thanks for watching this Key Learning Initiative video on sketching linear functions in the Duel Intercept method. Please remember to subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. Please remember to like and share the videos so that more people can see them. And lastly, please leave your comments and I will get back to you as quickly as I can.